Good morning, everybody. Um, I'm so happy that this is going on a new group. And when I got all your lovely names through to say that you were taking GCSE, I was over the moon. So we're going to have a lot of work to do, but we're going to have a lot of fun. I hope you feel like you've made the right choice, because you will end up being amazed by what you can produce in the next couple of years. I know things are difficult at the moment in terms of how you're learning, but hopefully these demonstrations are helping a little bit. And hopefully we'll be together again soon where I can teach you closer up in a sense. But hopefully these demonstrations are helping. What I will say is the work that you've been producing has been absolutely beautiful. So keep going. Keep at the lovely standard that you're working. And if you're looking at your work and thinking that perhaps you could be adding a little bit more detail, then please do. Don't do your work and rush it, thinking, oh right, okay, I just need to get this done. Enjoy it and take your time, because you can become really immersed in it. And I think for a time where you're in lockdown, I think it's really lovely to be able to lose yourself in something sometimes. I know you've all got an awful lot of work to do with all your subjects, but think of art as not only learning, but being something where you can literally escape and just enjoy. Okay, so this is your lesson 4 of the Patricia Ariel portrait. If you haven't done lesson 1, 2 and 3, and there are a few of you that haven't, then you absolutely need to do that first, because each lesson is working on top of the previous. So like the picture that you can see in front of you is the one that I've done in front of you guys. So it incorporates lesson 1, 2 and 3, and I'm about to do lesson 4 on it, like you're going to do lesson 4 on top of yours. So this is the last lesson in terms of Patricia Ariel, because hopefully by the end of this you will end up with a piece that looks pretty much just like hers, okay, with your own little spin on it. Oh, excuse me. We're basically going to be adding colour. Now, I've been thinking long and hard about this because obviously I'm lucky, I teach art, but I love art. It's a huge part of my life. So I do have art materials, but thinking of things to teach you from home, I'm being very mindful that you might not have many art materials, which is why at the moment you've literally been with like biro and paper. Today, when I say we're going to add colour, normally if we were in the classroom, I would be giving you lots of lovely watercolours and things like that, but I'm very aware that you might not have any. So I wouldn't normally do this with a Patricia Ariel portrait, but I will this time, and we'll see what it turns out like. I've not tried it myself yet in terms of how we're going to do it now. So we'll cross our fingers and see what happens. We'll make it work, okay? Sometimes the best things with art happen through happy accidents, and maybe this will be one of those times. I'm kind of thinking that rather than watercolours, I might add a little bit at the end, but it's not going to be necessary for you if you haven't got any. I'm thinking that rather than the watercolours, a lot of you may have felt tips. I hate them, but for this it might work, and I mean in moderation, so it's only tiny bits. Or watercolours, not watercolours, colour pencils. I also know, obviously from teaching you, that some of you have brought in watercolour, like the watercolour pencils, which you can use them. They're brilliant. Okay, so if you've got those, definitely use those. But what I'm thinking is, for the first part, I'm going to use pen. Like I said, I've not used pen in a portrait like this before, so let's see what happens. What I will say with Patricia Ariel is she uses a limited colour palette, and what I mean by that is she doesn't use a lot of colours. She will use probably 3 at most in her whole portrait. She uses a lot of the blue watercolour, but like I say, you might not have that, so don't worry about that. but she uses like a brown, which we can get away with using coffee. I'm going to show you how to do that because I would imagine there's coffee in most households. So if we're going to do any painting, it will be with a bit of coffee. So she tends to use one colour plus a coffee colour, so you got two colours there, and she might add a token other colour, okay, kind of like to pop out. Sometimes she puts, she doesn't put colour everywhere. So for example, in the face, the only place that I tend to see colour in her work is almost like eyeshadow, I guess. Don't want to do that with pen. So if you haven't got watercolours, don't do that. Like I say, we'll see what happens in terms of whether we do that with coffee or not. But it might be that we leave the eyes alone just for this. Okay, we don't want to put colour there just for the sake of it. Where she does tend to put like little spots of colour is within the patterns. So for example, you know, like in the little white bits here, she'll put probably an accent colour, which is, well, I think I'll try that. Okay. But what she does do is put a little bit of colour sometimes within the animal or insect or creature, whatever it is that you've drawn here. She tends to put a little bit of colour in there. She doesn't go full on colour, but she tends to do it in the body and maybe just like a little dash of it elsewhere. Okay, so we're going to start with the creature. Okay, whatever creature you've got in the middle. So for me, I've got the bee. Okay, so like I say, I've not done this in pen before, so we're going to see what happens. It's quite good that I'm doing this in front of you because we'll see if it works. Okay, so I've got here, they're just felt tips. Okay, like I said, I wouldn't normally get you to do this in felt tips, but if you've got them, then use them. If you've got colour pencils, then use those, but don't rush that. If you're going to use colour pencils, you must shade them properly, otherwise it will look awful. So like I said, limited colour palette, and because I've got a bee, I've kind of almost been given my colours there, haven't I? So kind of got the yellow and the orange. Now I'm kind of thinking in terms of, if I'm going to be using coffee, which is obviously like a brown shade, oranges would look lovely with that, okay, as would yellow. So can I see how we go? And maybe the accent colour, I have got a light blue there, but I've also got a red. I don't know, we'll see how I feel in a minute. But I'm going to start with the orange. Like I say, she only tends to do the body, so don't go suddenly all crazy and start colouring the whole thing in, all completely overexcited. But yes, I'm going to start with, I'm lucky, these pens, I got them dead cheap actually from when I went and did some grocery shopping, and they've got two ends on them, one's thicker than the other. Dead cheap, but we'll see what they're like. So I'm going to go with the orange for the moment. Let's see what happens. Oh my gosh, doesn't it already start to look different, like when you've got colour in it? Excuse my sniffling, I don't know about you guys, but I've had the most horrendous hay fever. Sniffling all the time. Now I've left this little bit at the bottom here, I don't know if you can see that from up there, but I'm going to see what it looks like with a tiny bit of yellow in the bottom. I'm going to leave the bottom bits of those as well. I'm going to put yellow in there as well. Now this can be quite cool because the design that I've got here, I can go alternate, so orange in some of it, I'm going to stick like that. I'm going to decide on the flower in just a moment. In fact, let's get that gorgeous orange in the head. These are quite good pens actually. that yellow now. Let's see what happens with that yellow. Yeah, I quite like it. Just get some in the bottom of that. Now let's think, should I go yellow there or orange? I'll decide that in a minute, I think. I'm kind of thinking perhaps to get a little bit of yellow in the wings, but I think we'll leave that just for the moment and see what happens. It might even be that we can put a bit of coffee in there, we'll see. Okay, let's have a think. We've got these lovely little legs going on here, haven't we? Let's do, I might just leave those just for the moment and see what happens. I'm kind of thinking that flower in the middle, I think that should be orange too. What's going to happen is when we add the coffee, this is really bright at the moment, too bright I would say, so the coffee is going to kind of make the whole thing slightly more subtle. Let's get some orange in those. Okay, that's quite cute. Right, so when I say we're painting with coffee, you might not have any clue what I'm talking about. So what you would do is, I've just got a little pot of it here, so I've got a little glass, and if you were to put like a tablespoon of coffee in a little glass or cup, whatever you're able to use, and then put a tiny amount of water, just enough for it to be able to dissolve. Now, the more water you put in, the lighter brown that you're going to get. Okay, it doesn't have to be hot water, it can be cold water straight out the tap, okay, but not a huge amount. It's quite a small amount, so you're literally just covering the coffee granules. And like I say, if you start painting and you think that the colour brown is too light or too dark, if it's too dark, put more water in. If it's too light, put more coffee granules in and just stir it, okay? So you can gauge your colours like that in terms of coffee. Coffee's brilliant to paint with, it's really beautiful. So what you're going to do is you're going to use your brush here. Now she doesn't, it's not necessarily neat painting that she does, it's kind of almost, there's kind of like drips to it, and quite a lot of water involved. So in here I've got the coffee, and she tends to do it outside of the face. So for example, I'm not going to go into the actual details. This pot here is literally just water, so if I just dab water in there, again just water, it's going to start travelling. And remember, this is just coffee, so it's really cool. Now, can you see it's darker here and lighter here? And that is because I've added just water here. Now, if I wanted it darker, I'd go back to my coffee and I'd start adding a little bit more in these areas. Try and be quite neat. We're going to become a little bit messy in terms of her style in a minute. I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so I'm going to bring more in up here. But not to the extent where I'm just doing loads. So it's coming down here, a little bit just water, can you see? I'm literally just dropping water, and you can see it travelling. But you can see I'm not filling the whole thing in. I'm picking and choosing where I want it. What I would suggest is that you have one of her pieces of work, maybe have it sitting in front of you so you can see kind of what she does. I think that's really useful, and you'll see that it won't be everywhere. Put some more water here. More coffee. Because I've put the water down and then I've added coffee, it's starting to travel, which is when we start to get all these beautiful details. Oh, sniffling again. Okay, I'm going to put little dots of water over here. I want it to be quite organic, so not too contrived. I'm going to bring some around here. Now, what you can do in a moment, I'm not going to do it just yet, is you can lift your sketchbook, and there's lots of water on it, and just let the water travel down. Now I can see that Patricia Ariel has done this. She's either used a straw to blow through, but unfortunately I haven't got any, or you can do it by lifting the page, but we're not going to use that just yet. Right, for the moment, I'm just going to move all this and I'm going to see what happens if I lift it. Now this could go disastrously wrong, so it's quite good that I'm doing this before you do yours, because we can see what happens. Now I've got lots of water. Like I say, I'm going to put a little bit more water on here. It might not do anything, so we'll see. Oh, let's have a look. Put in quite a bit of water here. I'm going to put a little bit more of the coffee. Just what I'm going to do, like I say, this might not work, so I'll try and turn this around so you can see what happens, if anything. And I'm going to, oops, yeah, look, can you see? It's all dripping down, and that's what her work would do. So I've seen it. I'm going to give it a helping hand. I'm just blowing down there. You see, it's all dripping, which I really like. So I'm going to leave that like that for a moment. Okay, now, like I say, I am lucky enough to have some watercolours. Now, what I do now could be absolutely wrong in terms of colours, so let's have a look and see what happens. I'm going to, I've got one of these paint palettes like from school, but you can get these anywhere. I would imagine that's quite a few of you have got these, but again, please don't worry if you haven't got them. But let's just see what happens. I'm just going to go for that blue and see what happens when we add that blue, because she does use quite a bit of blue. use the bigger brush. See what happens here. And like I say, I'm going to add a little bit more there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift it. Let's see what happens when I lift it. Let's see if that travels down there. Whoops, see there? Oh, look at that gorgeous colour. Love it. Okay, I'm going to do the same the other side. And try the other side. So we've got some balance going on. Trying not to go into the actual face. I'm going to add more water. Oh, my daughter's just come down. She's having a nosy at what I'm doing. Not that you can see her, but she's standing here too. Maybe I'll get her to do one. I'm going to get a bit of that blue dripping down there if I can. See that lovely line that we've got? In fact, I can just literally make it come down. Oh, look at that, gorgeous. How pretty. Right, I really like that. So there we go. So what she also does is she tends to, I don't know whether this will work, so we'll see what happens. She tends to have bits coming out of here. Let's see if I can do this. So she tends to have almost the water coming out at different angles. Oh, excuse my snottiness. Oh, let's put a bit of coffee in there. Blow that. Is this going to work? Oh, just stuck my hair in the paint. Is it going to work? Let's see. Might just have to lift it up again. I'm going to have to lift it. It's not playing. Make that travel a little bit there. Now, what this has done, as much as I like it, oh look what my hair's just done, that's silly of me. But what this has done has made the middle part stand out an awful lot, which is not what we want, because we want it to look like a whole. So what I am going to do, remember when I said before that I wanted to decide afterwards about the wings. I'm glad I've done that, because I can look at this now and say, yes, I need coffee in those wings. Maybe not everywhere, but I think if I had coffee in some of these areas, it would start to bring the whole thing together. So let's get my coffee back. Let's get my paintbrush. And let's bring some of this coffee into here. So what's nice, and what hopefully you will realise and remember, don't do what I'm doing, keep sticking your arm in the paint, that's what's so wet, but hopefully what you'll see is that I've got mine quite light in terms of coffee, but I could make some areas slightly darker. In fact, I'm going to ask my daughter, Olivia, could you go and get me the coffee, please? Just the pot of coffee. And I'm going to show you guys how you can just make it a little bit darker. Okay, I'll get all this lightness in. Squeaky cupboard door, getting the coffee. I'm going to come up here. And this is a good one actually if you haven't got any watercolours. You can just do different tones of the brown, which would be really lovely. Thank you, darling. So, see, look, just a pot of coffee. And what I'm going to do is, let's just make sure you can see that pot. So I'll put it there, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pour some of the coffee granules in there. Can you see that? I'll just have a quick look. Yeah, you can see the coffee granules. Now, when I stir that, it'll start to dissolve. Oh my gosh, it's making me want to drink. It smells amazing. So that now, hopefully, unless this proves me wrong, will be darker. Yeah, slightly darker. Can you see? I'm going to get some water though, because I don't want to lose that magical feel which comes with that almost iridescent film. And I'm going to do the same this side, bring the darkness in the end. Bring some in here. And actually, let's bring it a little bit more together. I'm going to get the smaller brush. Bring some into those little legs. So you can hardly see it, but it just gives a little feel. Remember what I said about using the biro? This is what's working really well, is the fact that none of the black is mixing with the rest. Oops, that was silly of me. That colour's just come into the wings, but that's okay, we'll make it work. Which means I have to put some, let's get some of that, and take that over there. Actually, you know what I was saying about those happy accidents? I quite like that colour in there. That definitely wasn't what I wanted, but now I quite like it. Let's get some of that, bring that over. That's actually what that's done, is brought everything together. Happy accident, told you. Let's bring some of that into the eye as well. You see, I'm bringing that coffee over the felt tip, and that's actually quite a nice colour, so I might do that to these. Dull it down a little bit. That's just putting coffee over it, but that's working really nice. So it's not so bright. I like that. Okay. Let's take some of that. Bring it into the body. It's actually working. Nice. And I'm going to take some more of that colour there. I'm going to bring it into the tentacles. some into here. Okay, now let's just move that a moment so we can see what's going on. I said about the accent colours in the pattern, which she does quite a bit. I don't want to go too bright because actually I quite like the fact that it's become quite subdued with the coffee. It's kind of all working together now. We don't want to lose that. So I'm kind of thinking, I'm going back to my pens because obviously I know that's what you've got, potentially got, and I'm kind of thinking what colour to go with. And I'm thinking, let's see what colours I've got. Let's have a think. I'm wondering if this blue will do the trick. Let's have a look. It's like a light blue. So let's see what happens. Oh, it's really subtle. But it's so nice with the coffee colour. Yeah, I like that. And we're not going to do this everywhere because when you notice from her work that she leaves quite a lot of it white. So let's have a think. Where else would she maybe put it? Not sure she put it anywhere, to be honest. I'm just conscious of the eyeshadow area, but I'm thinking, let's risk it. Okay. I'm not going to go with the blue though for the moment, so I'm going to try it with the coffee and see what happens. So she tends to bring it into these areas. Yeah, quite like that. Nice. But what I am thinking is that because I've used the blue, I don't want to use too much. Use a slight bit of that blue just to give that hint. Yeah, I think that's nice. Give that hint there. And that into there. I'm going to bring it slightly out. Bring a bit of water. Let it travel a little bit. And bring it down a little bit there. You know, I'm really liking this. I'm going to bring a little bit up here. It looks like we've forgotten some of the, it's looking a little bit dark, that, so. And because all I'm doing is water now, it's naturally having a gradient. So I've started off quite dark up there. Don't mistake what I'm doing now for putting colour everywhere. I'm not, I'm just taking hints of it. I also think there'd be some here, so I'm not going to go mad. I'm going to get the water and make it travel. Maybe some into the chin. Okay. So I've done these little circles here, and I'm kind of thinking, because I've got the blue there, I'm going to get my blue pen and I'm going to Get some of that blue. Don't know actually, am I? Let's have a think about this. Yeah, needs to be a little bit more balanced. But I'm not going to put it in that bit, I'm going to put it in this bit. And down here. Now because I've used really subtle colour with this, I can just about get away with it. But I'm actually thinking now that I've done that, it would work up here. Like I say, because I've used Biro, I can use my pen on top. Like that. Cool. Right. Put that down there. Let's have a think. Now, it gets to a point when you're doing a piece of work where you have to stop. Otherwise, you go too far. And I think that's what I'm going to have to do now. I'm going to stop now. Otherwise, I'm going to ruin it by doing too much. So, hopefully you can see that that looks like a Patricia Ariel inspired piece of work. It's not exactly the same as hers, but I'm really not bothered because I love it. And I love the fact that I've done it in front of you as well. So what I'd like is for you to make your choices in terms of the colours now. And remember, it's a limited colour palette. So if you look at what I've just done there, you can see that I started off with the orange in the middle. Not that you have to use orange, make a choice in terms of what creature or animal that you used, okay? But I only did the two colours, okay? I did the orange and the yellow, and not a lot of it, okay? Because you saw it was quite harsh and quite bold at the beginning. It's only when I started painting with the coffee that it started to dull down a little bit, and that's what we wanted because her work is very subtle, okay? It's about leaving white space as well. Dead important, that, because leaving white space is just as important as filling and painting, okay? You've got to have that contrast, you've got to have that balance, okay? So that's your next lesson. So guys, you're doing GCSE now, all right? I'm going to have a bit of a think because next week, you've only got a week to do this, because next week I'm going to start you on a project. I haven't decided whether we'll carry on with portraits at the moment. I think we possibly will, just because you're doing so well at it at the moment, and whilst you're in the zone we might as well carry on with different styles, but I'll have a think as to whether we carry on with this or we do a completely different one, but I'll decide and I'll obviously let you know, and enjoy this. It's really lovely once you get going. Don't get scared, okay? Just go with your gut, but don't choose too many colours. Okay, I look forward to seeing, or rather speaking to you next week and seeing your work. Please don't be late with the work. Can't stress enough how you're doing GCSE now. If you fall behind, you're going to end up with an awful lot of work and an awful lot of deadlines, and that's what we don't want. Don't want you stressed out, okay? So enjoy it and be creative, okay? I'll speak to you next week. Take care.